So all around the world, whenever you're traveling to gyms, it is most likely that when you're trying to play guard, they're just going to push you and keep you away and prevent you from actually gaining contact with them until they rolling front headlock or diving knee cut at your face. It's not very fun. So we're going to deal with multiple ways of getting access to your opponent, getting into their legs, sweeping them coming up on top, and exposing their back, so you don't have to deal with getting pushed away every single round. So what we're going to start to look at is a similar lesson as to yesterday. They're trying to back away from us. All we're trying to do is gain connection to somebody who does not want to play a part in the dance. This will happen more often than not, especially when they're terrified of guard players because they don't know how to pass. You'll start to move in towards them, they'll move backwards. They'll thumb post your shoulders, they'll even start to palm strike you in the forehead. We don't do that in the gym. Obviously in competition you will be subject to that a lot. So what we need to do is figure out a way to use his momentum against him, especially when he just continues to move back. So as soon as he moves backwards, if he's touching me, I can touch him. As soon as he does touch me, I'm gonna immediately upgrade to a 2-on-1. When I upgrade to my 2-on-1, it's very important that the weak part of my grip, where my fingers have an opening, especially if your partner has big wrists, Ashton doesn't, you're gonna get the weak part of your grip and you're gonna sandwich that with the strong part of the secondary grip. Now, if he tries to pull away from me, it's gonna be extremely difficult. I want to keep my elbows and my knees together or my elbows towards my ribs, and my entire body is going to be an anchor now. So if he tries to pull away, he just pulls me with him. We're going to use him pulling away to start to gain access to his legs. Upper body grips from guard are great, but it's better that we get connected to his lower body, because if you're against a really good guard passer, even this isn't that much of an advantage if you don't bring your legs into play. If I do nothing and just hold on to this and he circles me, I'm now in big trouble. So we're going to start with him pulling away first. He pulls away, I immediately start to come in for double kouchi. If you don't set them backwards, this is fine. You've still gained access to inside position and you're connected to him at least. You can start to upgrade these by going behind the knees, or you can simply just push him over. So we're playing away, we're starting to move towards him. Yeah, maybe thumb post me once, thumb post me twice. I keep moving in. As soon as I can get connection to him, I will. Every time I want to gain connection, I always upgrade to go 2-on-1s. It doesn't matter if you want to start to use grips like this, but we'll look at that later. So 2-on-1s here, he's going to pull back. I immediately start to come in double kouchi. Sometimes it works, sometimes it fails, but at least, the very least, I can now gain connection to him, and then I can start to upgrade it into other forms of guard, which we'll start to play with. So very quickly, just go through a little drill with your partner, get them to push away, get them to try and stay away from you as much as possible, move in, gain connection to them, and don't just like try and open up like this, because then you'll get passed, you'll get body locked and knee cut and all those other sorts of things. So give that a go, and then we'll look at something else. So the idea was that we're moving in, he's thumb posting as he's staying away. As soon as he contacts our shoulder, we should be able to contact him. We're going to start to move into double kouchi. He's not always going to knock him over, but what it will give us the ability to do is gain access to his legs. So right now, if you guys have been paying attention, we're moving into what's called shin guard. When you do shin guard, you want to do it correctly. You don't want to have your elbow flared out like this. You don't want to allow him to punch an underhook and then knee cut you over this direction. That would be disastrous. What you want to do is get a false grip, wrist deep in the back of the knee, tuck your elbow in on the inside of your own leg. So now if he does try and reach for an underhook, it's very, very difficult. There's not a lot of space underneath here. If he tries to knee cut, which is a super common reaction, we're just going to go with him and throw our torso underneath where his knee would be touching the mat. Notice how I've gone into secondary leg control. No matter what sort of connection you get here, it doesn't have to be a deep overwrap, it doesn't have to be a scoop, just some sort of control over his second leg. Once I get my torso underneath his knee, where his knee's contacting my torso or my chest, I'm going to start to straighten my leg, pulling his calf into a deep overwrap, and then raising my hips off the floor, firing into my ring Ashi sequence. Once I'm here, I've got a really good amount of connection on him. What you'll notice is that I've got my heel on the inside of his hip, I've got my adductor in the back of his calf, I've got a deep overwrap where my knuckles are on the inside of his knee, and I'm going to be raising my hips, putting weight into his right leg by connecting my knee and my heel as best as I can and lifting my hips up off the floor. If I don't do this correctly, I'm very lazy, he can just push my foot off his hip, and now I'm in a bit of a compromised position. He can start to get mobile. Exactly right. If I'm up here and he tries to do the same thing, especially with secondary leg control, I've got so much connection that I can easily manipulate his base and start to put him down on the floor. So we're moving in, we're gaining our initial connection, then when you start to go double kouchis to stop him from moving backwards, I realize that I can gain access to the back of the knee. I put my elbow inside the line of my knee to make sure he can't get an easy underhook. And if he does try and knee cut me, I just fall down to my side, reach for his secondary leg, get my body completely underneath this primary leg, straighten my shin, get my deep overwrap, and then start to fire up into my Rimi Ashi. Notice how I didn't let go of the secondary leg at all times, because I'm gonna use that to put him down now. Once I've got sufficient tension, now I can start to come up. When you guys come up, keep control of this ankle. If you don't, if I just let him go, he just stands back up. If I do keep his ankle above his hip, tries to stand, the only way he can get up from here is by kicking his leg up. Yeah, exactly. And now he's gonna start to give me access to his back, which is great for us and bad for him. Let's give that a go. Oh, did you fart? Did you really just fucking crop dust me? Who crop dusted the lesson? Did you fart into the fan and now it's drifting over here? Anyway, so we get our shin guard entry, we start to take connection, we get underneath him, we pull ourselves into a Rimi Ashi, and let's say that some of you guys weren't listening to all of it, or sometimes this happens. Before you're able to fire your hips up and connect properly, he starts to take your foot. Slow down, it's okay, I'm not gonna hurt you. He starts to take your foot off the hip and you miss the connection for the Rimi Ashi. What we're gonna do immediately is we're gonna take the foot that was off the hip, we're gonna kick him forwards. Notice how my right hand's always connected to his shin. I'm gonna scoot myself in here and start to go into my X guard. Sometimes it's not achievable to get back to a Rimi Ashi, but that's not a problem. We've got other forms of guard for a reason. So when we're in our X guard, one of the most important things is to keep his weight over his hands. If I don't keep weight into his hands, he's always able to put weight into his feet, and then he can start to C-post or take my legs out of the way. Exactly, then he can start to backstep me. Especially if he C-posts this leg, there's nothing stopping me from turning, stopping him to go backwards. Exactly right. And now this is a pretty shit position to be in. So you got to keep good tension in your hooks, and you got to make sure that you're constantly situating his weight forwards. Now, if you go into a regular X guard, it's always good to start to wrestle up from here, especially when his hands are out into the mat. If you find that he is trying to put his weight backwards this way, a C-post into the armpit is always a good idea. I'm gonna extract my first leg and keep my right leg in behind his knee. Again, I don't want him backstepping over the top of me, and I don't want him to be able to move freely. The more weight I can drive into his hands towards his head, the better. I'm gonna start to elbow prop by widening my elbow and come up. Once I've got this leg, I'm not just gonna see the hips and go, oh my God, there's the hips, let go and let him run away. I'm gonna keep his foot shelved on top of my hip. I'm gonna start to go 1, 2, 3 into a rear body lock. Once I'm here, you've got a ton of options. The simplest and the easiest option, especially when he's 4-pointed out like this in a long fashion, is to spiral ride. I'm gonna take my right hand underneath the shoulder, my left hand on the inside of the hip. I'm gonna cut him in a circle, back down towards getting him into bottom position. So now we're going from bottom to top. So I start moving in, he's running away. I get my initial connections. I start to go towards my shin guard. I get my secondary leg controlled. I fire up, but he does a good job of disengaging that. I keep this knee always pointed towards the ceiling. I don't let this go and pull me out. This would be disastrous. I put my left foot in the floor, kick him forwards, and now I can start to go into my X guard. The beauty of kicking him forwards first is that his weight is already situated over his hands. All I need to do is just maintain that. So if I have to C-post him, no problem. I'm using my legs, I'm keeping good tension. I'm not letting these flop where he can start to push this down to the mat and start to backstep straight away. From here, I'm keeping my right leg in behind his knee, and I can start to elbow prop and come up. I don't just let go at this stage. I go 1, 2, 3 into my rear body lock. As soon as I get here, I don't waste any time. I use my spiral ride, start to take him down to a mat, break him down to a hip. Let's give that a go. Okay, exact same sequence. We're gonna start to gain connection to him even if he's trying to push us away. We get into our shin guard, we reach for our secondary leg, we start to put him up and over the top. He throws our foot off. This time, what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch our legs around. This initial leg is gonna be the one that stays up in the middle. The reason being is we're gonna start to go into his legs this time. So your knee that kicks him forwards, not the one that goes on the floor, is the one that stays in the middle. This one is even more important to keep his hands out and away so we can start to elevate his legs and keep his legs light. If he starts to put weight into his legs, it's very difficult, even with a massive strength discrepancy, to start to use your legs. So we're gonna keep our C-post in the armpit, we're gonna deep overwrap, we're gonna start to slightly roll up onto our shoulders so that we can gain access to this secondary leg. We're gonna straighten our leg that's not between the legs, and we're gonna keep our knee on this side of his leg. Make sure that you do this, because as soon as your knee travels to the inside, he can start to perform berimbolas. We don't want that to happen. We don't want our back to get taken. As soon as you plop this knee in between your knee line, you're gonna start to connect your feet, not locking a full triangle, but just go ankle triangle, and you're gonna start to sit his weight down over his hips in this direction. Once we're here, we're gonna start to go scoop underneath the primary leg, taking our secondary leg out of the way, and then we're gonna cup on the top of the ankle, wedging it in between our hips. This way, as soon as he goes to extract his leg, I've got a really nice bite on the inside of the knee, putting a bend in the leg. I can start to reach my elbow down towards the toes, get a nice bite on the heel, take my undercross out, connect my hands, and start to go with forward hip pressure on my right knee, and then upward rotation with my heel hook and grip. He takes our foot off the hip, we send him forwards, but this time, my leg goes underneath the original leg that stays in the middle. I keep his weight out into his hands so I can make his leg light. His leg will fall into place. If it doesn't fall into place, it should be pretty easy just to reach up to where your knee is, in the back of his knee, going ankle to ankle. We're now gonna put all his weight over where he has no post to start to sit him down to his hips. Once we're here, we've got secondary leg control, we're in a good spot. I'm gonna start to reach for my undercross, starting to go over the top of this ankle. I don't wanna let this go straight away because I don't have the heel yet. If I let it go straight away, he can turn his big toe down to the mat, and then we pretty much go into endless rolls where we have to pass him into diagonal. So if I wedge him here first, as I go down the leg for the bite, now I can let him go because I don't have that same problem of him turning his big toe down to the mat and hiding his heel because I've already got it. Take my undercross out, start to go wrist to wrist. I go ankle tracking with my feet together, and then it's a slight internal rotation with my right knee coming across his knee like this, and I've got nice and high hands. I should get a really nice bite on the inside of the knee here. Let's give that a go.